Hello and welcome, Dot. It's so good to have you here, settling in for the night with us at Sleep with Stories. We're a little corner of the world dedicated to history that's, well, a little less exciting. History that's quiet and slow and perfect for letting go of the day. Tonight, we're going to travel back in time together. There are no great battles to be won, no empires to be saved. There is only the gentle rhythm of a world that has long since faded into memory. So find a comfortable position. Let your shoulders relax and feel the weight of your body being held. You've done enough for one day. In fact, if all goes well, you probably won't even make it through this one. If you enjoy this journey, we'd be so grateful if you'd take a quiet moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It helps us find others who are looking for a softer way to end their day. And feel free to leave a comment telling us where you're listening from and what time it is in your part of the world. It's a lovely thing to imagine you all resting in different corners of the globe all at once. Now, let your eyes drift closed. Let the sound of my voice be a gentle guide. There's nothing else you need to do, nothing to solve. Nothing to remember. Let's ease into tonight's journey. The air that greets you is cool and heavy with the scent of damp pavement and the faintest trace of coal smoke, a smell that seems to cling to every brick and every stone in the city. It's New York in the heart of the 1920s, but it's not the New York you've seen in frantic, fast-forwarded films. This is the city in its quiet moments and the spaces between the headlines. You're standing on a residential street in Brooklyn, lined with the stoic, handsome faces of brownstone houses. The sky above is a deep, bruised purple, the kind of twilight that promises a long and quiet night. One by one, gas street lamps are beginning to hiss to life, casting a soft, almost buttery glow on the sidewalk. Their light is gentle, forgiving. It doesn't expose so much as it suggests. In the distance, a low, mournful horn from a tugboat on the East River echoes through the canyons of buildings. It's a quiet that feels temporary, as if the city is just taking a breath before its next argument. You're heading home. The day is done, and it has left its mark on you, not as a collection of memories, but as a dull, persistent ache behind your eyes. It's a headache. Not a dramatic thunderclap of a migraine, but a slow, grinding pressure that has been your unwelcome companion for 3 days now. It drains the color from the world, making every sound seem a little too sharp, every light a little too bright. You've already tried the usual remedies, aspirin from the apothecary, a cool cloth pressed to your forehead, and the timeless art of staring blankly at a wall, which is less a cure and more of a hobby at this point. Nothing has worked. The ache is a stubborn tenant who refuses to be evicted. You reach your own building, its familiar iron railing cool and solid under your hand. You live on the 3rd floor. It's a walk-up, of course. Elevators are for luxury hotels and the very, very optimistic. Each step up the worn wooden staircase is a conversation with gravity you seem to be losing. The air inside is thick with the ghosts of yesterday's dinner's cabbage, fried onions, and something vaguely like boiled beef. You place your key in the lock, the brass feeling slick and cool. The door opens with a familiar, weary groan, and you step into your small apartment. It's not much, but it is a fortress of solitude against the ceaseless energy of the city. Here, the noise is muted, the world held at bay. You walk past the small kitchenette, a simple affair with an icebox that requires regular visits from the iceman and his dripping block of winter. You think for a moment about a drink. A cool glass of beer, maybe a small measure of whiskey to dull the edges of your headache and the day. But of course, that's not an option. Not a legal one, anyway. The Volstead Act has seen to that. The corner saloon you used to pass on your way home, once a place of warm light and camaraderie, is now a sad-looking candy store, its windows dusty and its spirit gone. Some people visit speakeasies, hidden behind secret doors and passwords, but you're not the type. The risk, the expense, the sheer performance of it all, it seems like more trouble than it's worth. No one is entirely certain how widespread the private consumption of medicinal alcohol truly was, but diaries from the era suggest it was far from uncommon. For you tonight, water from the tap will have to suffice. You sink into the armchair by the window, its springs sighing in protest. The headache pulses in time with your own heartbeat. Thump, thump, thump. It's a monotonous rhythm, a drumbeat for your own private, miserable parade. You lean your head back, closing your eyes. In the quiet of your room, you become intensely aware of a popular theory you read about in a magazine last week. They called it auto-intoxication. The idea, promoted with the utmost seriousness by various health gurus of the day, was that modern ailments, fatigue, anxiety, and yes, headaches were caused by a sort of internal poisoning, a buildup of toxins in the digestive tract that slowly seeped into the rest of the body. The suggested cures range from special diets to alarming-looking mechanical contraptions. The whole notion seems faintly ridiculous to you, and yet, as the pressure builds behind your temples, you can't help but wonder if your own insides are staging some kind of silent rebellion. You press the heels of your hands into your eyes as if you could physically push the pain away. It's no use. The headache remains, a silent, stubborn presence in the quiet of your third-floor walk-up. As the lights of Brooklyn flicker on for the night, the quiet of your apartment is a double-edged sword. It offers peace from the city's clamor, but it also provides a perfect silent stage for your headache to perform its unrelenting monologue. Just as you're resigning yourself to another evening of this dull torment, a polite knock echoes from your door. It's your neighbor from across the hall, Mrs. Gable, a woman whose internal clock seems permanently set to concerned. You open the door to find her standing there, holding a small plate with a piece of crumb cake, an offering of neighborly peace. She's a kind woman, with a cloud of graying hair and eyes that seem to absorb all the neighborhood gossip with a gentle, non-judgmental sponge-like quality. She takes one look at you, her head tilting with practiced sympathy. The headache. Again, dear? She asks, her voice a soft, raspy whisper. You nod, not trusting yourself to speak much. She gestures with the plate. You need to get out of your own head. Stewing in here won't do any good. She leans in a little closer, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial tone, the air suddenly thick with the scent of cinnamon and impending advice. My sister's girl, Clara, she had the same trouble. Headaches for a solid month. Doctors gave her pills, told her to rest. Nothing worked. And then she heard about a new place. A therapeutic dance hall. You stare at her. A therapeutic dance hall. The words sound like they belong to two entirely different languages. You picture a chaotic scene of people in hospital gowns attempting the Charleston. Mrs. Gable, however, is entirely serious. She explains it with wide, sincere eyes, assuring you it's all based on the latest science, a phrase that, even now, rarely inspires confidence. According to her niece, this wasn't like the frantic dance marathons you've read about in the papers, those grueling, desperate contests where young people would dance for hundreds of hours until they literally collapse from exhaustion, all for a cash prize and a moment of fleeting fame. This was different. It was, she insists, medicinal. The music was specifically chosen for its soothing rhythms. The movements weren't wild or jarring, but gentle and repetitive. The goal wasn't endurance, but release. They say it helps realign the body's energies, she says, using a phrase she clearly borrowed from a pamphlet, shakes the toxins loose. There it is again, the toxins. It seems everyone is worried about their toxins these days. She pushes the plate of cake into your hands. Just think about it, dear. What have you got to lose? As you close the door, the absurdity of the idea hangs in the air, dancing to cure a headache. It sounds like a scheme cooked up to separate the desperate from their dimes. At this point, you'd consider balancing a turnip on your head if someone promised it would work. Dancing seems only slightly less ridiculous. Yet, the steady, throbbing beat in your skull continues its rhythm. And Mrs. Gable's words echo in your mind. What have you got to lose? You eat the crumb cake standing in your kitchen. It's sweet and good. And as you chew, you weigh your options. Stay here in this silent room and surrender to the pain, or venture back out into the night on the slim, preposterous chance that a dance hall holds the cure. Historians still debate whether these therapeutic dance parlors were run by true believers in alternative medicine or were simply clever, rebranding efforts by struggling dance hall owners in the wake of prohibition. To you, in this moment, their motives don't matter as much as their results. The desperation is beginning to win out over the skepticism. Mrs. Gable had even mentioned the lighting. She said the entire hall was bathed in specific colors of light that were supposed to have healing properties. They use a lovely blue light for ailments of the head, she'd said. It calms the nerves. The idea is that the blue light calms the nerves. Whether it calms them or just makes the whole room look like an aquarium is a matter of personal opinion. The thought of it is so strange, so otherworldly, that it's almost appealing. It's the opposite of this small beige room and the throbbing grayness of your pain. Anything would be better than this. With a sigh of resignation that seems to come from your very bones, you make a decision. You will go. You will venture forth and find this temple of therapeutic movement. You put on your coat, the familiar weight of it a small comfort. You check your pockets for a few dollars. The address Mrs. Gable gave you is a streetcar right away, in a part of town you don't know well. Stepping out of your apartment and back into the hallway, you can hear the faint sound of a radio playing in another apartment, a tinny orchestra spilling out into the stairwell. The city is still out, there humming with its endless, restless energy. You close your door, the click of the latch echoing in the quiet hall, and begin the slow walk back down the 3 flights of stairs. Stepping out into the cool night, into the soft glow of the gaslights, on your way to dance a headache away. Street corner where you wait for the streetcar is quiet, caught in a momentary lull. A breeze, carrying the damp, mineral scent of the river, skitters down the empty street, chasing a discarded newspaper page in a sad, rustling dance. You pull your coat a little tighter. Waiting for a trolley in this city is an exercise in faith. It operates on a schedule known only to its driver and, perhaps, to a higher power with a strange sense of humor. Your headache, of course, has come along for the ride, a faithful, throbbing companion. You can feel its rhythm behind your right eye, a dull, insistent pressure that seems to be dimming the already soft glow of the gaslights. You shift your weight from one foot to the other, the simple act of standing feeling like a significant effort. After what feels like a small eternity, you hear it, a distant, grinding clatter, a rhythmic clang of metal on metal that grows steadily louder. A single bright headlight cuts through the darkness, and the trolley car emerges, a lumbering beast of illuminated wood and steel. Swaying slightly on its tracks, it groans to a halt in front of you, its air brakes hissing like a tired dragon. The doors fold open with a shudder, and you step up into the warm, brightly lit interior. The conductor, a man with a magnificent gray mustache and a profoundly bored expression, takes your fare without making eye contact. The inside of the car smells of oiled wood, damp wool coats, and the faint, sweet aroma of chewing tobacco. You find a seat on a worn wooden bench, its surface polished smooth by 1,000 unknown commuters. With another hydraulic sigh, the doors close, and with a lurch and a jolt that sends a sharp spike of pain through your head, the car begins to move. The journey is a study in hypnotic repetition. The steady rocking motion, the clack, clack, clack of the wheels on the rails, the periodic clang of the bell as the driver warns an unseen pedestrian to mind their business. You gaze out the window, watching the neighborhoods of Brooklyn slide by. Rows of brownstones give way to stretches of storefronts, their windows dark and vacant for the night. You see a bakery, a butcher shop, a hardware store, each a small sleeping world. The other passengers are a silent, weary congregation. They all share the same blank, 1,000-yard stare of people who have been on their feet all day and are now being asked to pay for the privilege of sitting down. A man across the aisle reads a Yiddish newspaper, his lips moving silently as he follows the text. A young woman next to him has her head leaned against the vibrating window, her eyes closed, either asleep or simply conserving her last ounce of energy. It is difficult for historians to reconstruct the precise social etiquette of late-night public transit, but it seems to have been a mixture of weary commuters and those venturing out for the evenings. Entertainments. Your eyes drift up to the advertisements lining the curved ceiling of the car. They offer a glimpse into the anxieties and aspirations of your time. An ad for a brand of soap promises to wash your fat away, a claim that seems both scientifically dubious and vaguely insulting. Another promotes a brand of yeast cakes, not for baking, but for improving one's complexion and vigor, a reminder that the line between food and medicine is often wonderfully blurry. There are ads for cigarettes, for coffee, for real estate in far-flung parts of Queens that are depicted as pastoral paradises, conveniently omitting any mention of mud or mosquitoes. For a moment, you are lost in this gallery of public persuasion, a world of promises in bright, cheerful colors. It's a distraction, but only a momentary one. The headache is still there, a low hum beneath the noise of the trolley. It has become the background music to your life. The streetcar sways, the wheels clatter, and you press your fingers gently to your temple, wondering if you are heading toward a cure, or just toward a new and more expensive form of disappointment. The thought does little to lift your spirits, but the trolley car keeps moving, carrying you deeper into the unfamiliar night. The conductor calls out your stop in a voice devoid of all emotion. The name of the street sounds foreign, a jumble of syllables that means nothing to you. You step off the trolley and onto the sidewalk, and the car rumbles away into the darkness, leaving you in a sudden, profound quiet. The neighborhood here is different from your own. The buildings are shorter, a little more weathered. The air feels heavier. This street is darker, with fewer gaslights, and the shadows they cast are long and deep. You check the piece of paper on which Mrs. Gable scribbled the address. You're on the right street. Now you just have to find the building. It's less of a temple of healing and more of a building that hasn't been condemned yet, but the address matches. It's a plain, brick-faced building, wider than its neighbors, with a set of double doors where a grand storefront might have once been. The windows are painted over in a dark, opaque blue, so no light escapes. The only sign of life is a small, discreet brass plaque next to the door that reads, "The Somatic Harmony Hall." A low, rhythmic sound, a muffled beat, leaks through the heavy doors. It's music, but not the frenetic, jazzy sound that spills out of the city's hidden speakeasies. This is slower, more deliberate. A simple, looping melody played on a piano and a cello. Taking a breath that doesn't quite fill your lungs, you push open one of the heavy doors and step inside. The transition is instantaneous and disorienting. You leave the cool, dark night and enter a world bathed entirely in a deep, vibrant, and unwavering blue light. The air is warm and smells faintly of lavender and floor wax. For a moment, you just stand there, blinking as your eyes adjust to the monochrome world. It's like being at the bottom of the ocean. Mrs. Gable was right. The blue light is everywhere, emanating from shaded lamps placed in the corners of the vast, high-ceilinged room. This was the central conceit of chromotherapy, a popular belief at the time, which held that specific colors of light could treat specific ailments by restoring the body's vibratory balance. Blue, for instance, was considered cooling and calming, prescribed for fevers, inflammation, and, of course, headaches. A woman in a simple dark dress approaches you from a small desk near the entrance. She has a serene, almost unnervingly calm expression on her face. "Welcome to the hall," she says, her voice low and even. "Therapeutic session or observation?" You murmur therapeutic, and she nods slowly. "That will be $1. You hand over your money, feeling like you're paying a cover charge to enter a giant mood ring. She gives you a small, numbered ticket in return. "Find a guide on the floor when you're ready," she instructs. "They will assist you." You look past her and into the main room. It's a large, open dance floor. Perhaps 24 people are scattered across it, all moving with a slow, deliberate grace. They are not dancing with each other in the traditional sense. Some are alone, swaying gently with their eyes closed. Others are paired with partners dressed in the same simple, dark attire as the woman at the desk. These must be the guides, the therapeutic equivalent of the taxi dancers you might find in a more conventional dance hall. The people inside are swaying with a kind of gentle, coordinated gloom, as if they're at the world's most depressing wedding reception. The exact musical selections used in such establishments are lost to time, but anecdotal accounts suggest a preference for slow waltzes and dreamy, repetitive melodies that fell somewhere between popular music and a lullaby. The music you hear now certainly fits that description. It's a soothing, endless loop that seems designed to sand down any sharp edges of thought. Your headache is still there, but in the strange, blue underwater light, it feels different. Less sharp, perhaps. Or maybe it's just bewildered by the sheer strangeness of it all. You stand at the edge of the dance floor, clutching your little ticket, a stranger in a sea of blue light and gentle motion. Wondering what on earth you are supposed to do next, you stand at the edge of the dance floor for what feels like a very long time. Your numbered ticket, a small, flimsy shield against the strangeness of it all. The people on the floor sway and turn in the blue light, their faces placid, their movements languid. They look less like dancers and more like seaweed caught in a gentle tide. There's a certain uniformity to their expressions, a kind of peaceful blankness that you find both enviable and slightly unnerving. Remember the stiff, awkward postures of the people on the streetcar? This is the opposite. This is a room full of people actively trying to unstiffen. You watch them, trying to discern the rules of this strange game. There don't seem to be any. No complex footwork, no dramatic dips or spins. It is, for all intents and purposes, a form of organized, meditative milling about. Finally, summoning. A reserve of courage you didn't know you had, you catch the eye of one of the guides. He is a young man, tall and slender, with a calm, almost priestly demeanor. He approaches you not with a jaunty stride, but with a slow, gliding walk, as if he's conserving energy for a marathon of relaxation. He gives you a small, serene bow. "You are ready to begin?" he asks, his voice as smooth and placid as his expression. You simply nod and hand him your ticket. He doesn't tear it or even really look at it, just makes it disappear into a pocket with a fluid motion. "My name is Thomas," he says. "There's nothing to learn and nothing to perfect. Just follow my lead, listen to the music, and breathe." He offers you his hands, and you take them. His grip is light but firm, his palms cool and dry. This is far more awkward than you imagined. It feels like a parody of a formal dance, a solemn ritual for a religion you've just invented. He gently pulls you onto the floor, and for a terrifying moment, you feel as though a spotlight has swung onto you, but of course there is no spotlight. There's only the endless democratic blue, and no one is paying you any attention at all. The dance begins. If you can call it a dance, it is more accurately a slow, guided walk set to music. A few steps forward, a gentle sway to the left, a few steps back, a sway to the right. Thomas leads with an effortless, almost imperceptible pressure. He doesn't speak. He simply moves, his body a living metronome. The method feels connected to the popular movement of eurythmics, which sought to express musical rhythm through physical movement to create a greater sense of harmony between mind and body. The idea was to internalize the rhythm, to make it part of your own physical being. Whether these dance guides were formally trained in such philosophies, or simply told to look calm and sway a lot, is a matter lost to history. Thomas certainly seems to be a true believer, or at least a very good actor. At first, you are intensely aware of your own awkwardness. Your feet feel like blocks of wood. Your shoulders are tense, pulled up towards your ears. The headache throbs, in stubborn counter rhythm to the gentle cello. You feel foolish. You imagine what Mrs. Gable would think if she could see you now, shuffling around in a blue-lit room with a stranger named Thomas, paying $1 for the privilege. It's the sort of thing people whisper about, but Thomas is patient. He doesn't correct you. He doesn't even seem to notice your stiffness. He just keeps moving, a steady, calming presence in the sea of blue. Slowly, reluctantly, your body begins to respond. The rhythm of the music, a simple 4-beat waltz, is so repetitive, so predictable, that it requires no thought. Step, sway, sway, sway. Step, sway, sway, sway. It's a physical lullaby. And as the minutes stretch on, a strange thing begins to happen. The self-consciousness starts to peel away, layer by layer, like old wallpaper. The constant, nagging internal monologue begins to quiet down. The music does not stop. As one slow, melancholic tune fades, another begins, almost identical to the last. The transition is seamless, designed to prevent any break in the hypnotic spell. You and Thomas are still moving across the polished floor, caught in the same simple, repeating pattern. The world has shrunk to the circle of blue light. Around you, to the sound of the cello and piano, to the gentle pressure of your guide's hands. All the other anxieties of the day, the pressures of your job, the cost of groceries, the ever-present feeling of being a small cog in a vast, indifferent machine have receded. They are still there, somewhere out in the dark, but they can't seem to penetrate this bubble of blue light and soft music. Your mind, which has been racing for days, trying to find a solution to the pain in your head, has finally given up. It has been lulled into a state of surrender by the sheer, overwhelming monotony of it all. Thomas leans in slightly, his voice a low whisper near your ear. Imagine the light, he says. The blue light is a cool stream. Let it flow in through the top of your head. Let it wash down, carrying the pain away with it. You hear the words, and your first instinct is to scoff. It's nonsense, of course. The kind of simplistic, positive thinking that's becoming all the rage. You've seen the books and heard the lectures of men like Emil Kuh with his famous, endlessly repeated mantra, every day, in every way, I am getting better and better. This feels like a physical extension of that idea, healing through repetition, through gentle, persistent suggestion. Whether the proprietors of these halls genuinely believed in the physiological effects of their methods or were simply masterful marketers of ambience is a question that the historical record leaves tantalizingly unanswered. But as you continue your slow swaying walk, you find yourself, against your better judgment, actually trying it. You close your eyes. You picture a cool blue stream entering your mind. You picture it swirling around the tight knot of your headache, loosening it, dissolving it. It's a foolish little mental game, but it's more pleasant than focusing on the pain itself. The lavender scent in the air, which you'd earlier dismissed, now seems to be part of the effect, a calming anchor in the sensory landscape. Your breathing, which you hadn't even noticed was shallow and tight, begins to deepen. Your shoulders finally drop. The rhythm of the dance has become as natural as your own heartbeat. And as you sway in the blue-tinted darkness, you realize something astonishing. The headache, it's not gone, not completely, but it has changed. The sharp, insistent pressure has softened into a dull, distant echo. The throbbing has faded, merging with the beat of the music until you can no longer tell them apart. For the first time in 3 days, there is a sense of space inside your own head, a quiet clearing in a dense and noisy forest. You feel a wave of something that is almost gratitude. It's directed at nothing in particular, at Thomas, at the unseen musicians, at the color blue, at Mrs. Gable and her ridiculous suggestion. You feel light, almost buoyant. The dance continues, a slow, timeless circle. You've paid $1 not for a cure, but for a truce. A temporary ceasefire in the war being waged inside your skull. And as the cello plays its sad, sweet song, you realize you don't care if it's science or a suggestion or just the result of walking in a circle in a dark room for an hour. It is for now enough. After a period of time you can't quite measure, it could have been 20 minutes or 2. Hours the music softens, finally trailing off into a sustained, resonant chord from the cello that hangs in the air for a long moment before fading completely into silence. The dance is over. A collective, gentle sigh seems to move through the room. Thomas gives your hands a final light squeeze before letting them go. The session is complete, he says, his voice still a low, calming murmur. Rest well. And with another one of his serene little bows, he glides away, disappearing back into the blue shadows to await the next person with a headache and $1. You stand alone in the middle of the floor, feeling strangely unmoored. The other dancers are slowly, quietly making their way toward the exit, moving with the same deliberate lack of urgency they displayed on the dance floor. There's no chatter, no exchange of pleasantries. It's as if everyone has tacitly agreed not to break. The spell, you follow them, your feet moving almost soundlessly on the polished wood. As you reach the front desk, the woman with the unnervingly calm face gives you a slow, knowing nod. You feel an absurd urge to thank her, but the silent reverence of the place makes it feel inappropriate, like shouting in a library. You push, open the heavy door, and step back out into the night. The shock of it is almost physical. The air is cold and sharp against your warm skin. The world is no longer blue. The streetlights cast a pale, yellow-white glow, and the shadows are a deep, inky black. The colors feel harsh, oversaturated. The familiar damp scent of the city rushes back in, washing away the smell of lavender and floor wax. For a moment, the ordinary world looks bizarre, alien. It's like stepping out of a matinee movie into the bright afternoon sun. Your mind still half stuck in the black and white world of the film. You begin walking toward the streetcar stop, your steps feeling surprisingly light. The headache is still there, but it's a ghost of its former self. It's a faint, far-off echo, a memory of a pain rather than the pain itself. You can turn your head without feeling a spike of protest. The low rumble of the city seems less like an assault and more like a familiar hum. You pass a small, all-night diner, its windows glowing with a warm, greasy light. Inside, a few solitary figures hunch over thick white mugs. You see the lunch man wheeling his cart down the street, a strange nocturnal creature. These carts, often little more than converted baby carriages, were a common sight, dispensing hot coffee, sandwiches, and factory-made pies to night shift workers, police officers, and anyone else wandering the city in the wee hours. It was a mobile 24-hour testament to the city's ceaseless metabolism. You find yourself smiling. The whole experience at the Somatic Harmony Hall was utterly, profoundly ridiculous. A blue room, a funereal waltz, a silent man named Thomas, a prescribed belief in invisible toxins. It was theatrical, unscientific, and preyed on the desperation of people like you, and yet it worked. Or at least something did. The scholarly consensus on such alternative therapies is that they likely succeeded not because of any intrinsic medical validity, but through a powerful combination of placebo effect, suggestion, and the simple, undeniable benefit of an hour of enforced relaxation and gentle movement. The very act of doing something, of taking a strange and deliberate step toward healing, was perhaps the most potent part of the cure. As you stand on the corner, waiting for the trolley to take you home, you don't care about the scientific explanation. You feel better. You've paid your dollar and gotten your money's worth, not in a cure, but in a temporary and much-needed peace treaty with your own nervous system. You feel a strange sense of quiet victory, a small private triumph over the tyranny of a simple headache. The return trip on the streetcar is a completely different experience. Before, you were hunched inward, a prisoner of the pain in your head. Now you feel open, observant. The city gliding past your window is no longer just a dreary backdrop to your misery. It's a living, breathing entity, and you are a part of it again. You find a seat and notice things you were blind to on the way here. The intricate pressed tin pattern on the ceiling, the way the overhead lights flicker slightly with every jolt of the car, the worn brass fittings on the window frames. The other passengers, who had seemed like a collection of exhausted ghosts, now look like individuals, each with a story you can only guess at. A woman in a smart cloche hat is reading a novel, her expression intense. Two men in work clothes are having a quiet but animated conversation, their hands sketching shapes in the air. Your eyes drift up to the same advertisements on the ceiling. Remember the ad for the soap that promised to wash fat away? It now seems less insulting and more comically quaint. You see the yeast cakes ad again and wonder how many people are earnestly eating yeast to improve their complexion. The promises seem so loud, so optimistic, so perfectly American. The entire city, you reflect, is built on this kind of relentless promise, the promise of a better job, a bigger apartment, a healthier life, a prettier face. All for a price, of course. The ads are selling not just products, but a kind of hope, and tonight you feel like you've just purchased a small, unorthodox dose of it yourself. The trolley rattles through a commercial district where the first electric signs are beginning to replace the old gaslit ones. Huge, intricate structures of bulbs spell out brand names in dazzling, blinking patterns. This slow, block-by-block electrification of the city's advertising landscape was a major, and often controversial transformation of the urban night. To some, it was a sign of progress and vitality. To others, it was a garish, unwelcome intrusion of commerce into the dark. Tonight, you find it beautiful. The flashing lights don't hurt your head. They just seem vibrant, a testament to the city's endless, crackling energy. You notice a young couple get on at one of the stops. The woman is wearing her hair in a short, daring bob, and her dress hem is higher than would have been considered respectable just a few years ago. She is laughing freely, not hiding her voice behind her hand. Historians continue to debate the true extent to which the new woman of the 1920s was a widespread reality versus a media creation. But in moments like this, watching this confident young woman navigate the city at night, the change feels undeniably real. Before you know it, the conductor calls your street. The sound is familiar and welcome. You step off the trolley and onto your own block. The row of brownstones looks reassuringly solid, their stoops like sleeping guardians. You look up at the third-floor window of your own apartment. It's just a dark rectangle among many others, but it feels different now. It's not a prison where you must suffer your headache in silence. It's a sanctuary, a quiet place to return to. The key feels cool and familiar in your hand. You climb the 3 flights of stairs, your steps lighter than they were before. The ghost of old cabbage dinners still haunt the hallway, but they seem less oppressive. You unlock your door, step inside, and are greeted by the quiet, comfortable darkness of home. The journey is over. The headache is a whisper. And for the first time in a long time, the silence doesn't feel empty. It feels peaceful. You don't bother with turning on the lights. The moonlight, filtered through the large window in your small living room, is enough. It paints a pale, silvery rectangle on the wooden floor, illuminating a galaxy of dust motes dancing in the still air. You move through the familiar landscape of your apartment, your hands brushing against the back of the armchair, the edge of a small table. Each object is a silent, reassuring landmark in the quiet geography of home. You go to the kitchenette and pour yourself a glass of water from the tap. It's cool and tastes faintly of the metal pipes it traveled through, a taste that is, in its own way, the taste of the city itself. You drink it slowly, standing in the darkness, letting the coolness trickle down your throat. The simple act feels grounding, a return to the ordinary after your brief blue-tinted excursion into the peculiar. Your headache is gone. Not just diminished, not just hiding in the wings, but gone. The absence of the pressure is a sensation in itself, a blissful emptiness where the pain used to be. It's as if a loud, monotonous radio has finally been switched off, and the resulting silence is a beautiful, expansive thing. You run a hand over your forehead, half expecting to feel a residual thrumming, but there's nothing, just your own skin, cool and calm. You find yourself smiling again in the darkness, a private, foolish-looking grin. The whole affair at the dance hall still feels utterly absurd. You think of Thomas, your silent, swaying guide. His serenity was so absolute, so professional. It's easy to be a vessel of pure calm, you suppose, when you're getting paid $1 a head to gently waltz with. The afflicted Dot, you sink back into your armchair, the one whose springs always complain. Tonight, even their groan sounds like a fond welcome. From here, you can see a small, framed print on the opposite wall. It's one of those inspirational mottos that are becoming fashionable. A simple piece of paper with the words, "Turn your face to the sun and the shadows fall behind you," printed in an elegant, curling script. You bought it for a few cents from a street vendor, thinking it might brighten the place up. You wonder if a poster has ever actually convinced a truly miserable person to have a good day. It seems unlikely. Yet tonight, its simple-minded optimism doesn't feel quite so irritating. This reflects a broader cultural shift. The early seeds of the self-help movement were being planted all around you, with lecturers and writers beginning to preach a new gospel of personal power, the idea that one could, through sheer force of will and positive thinking, master one's own emotional and financial destiny. It's hard to say how many people truly subscribe to these new psychological theories versus those who simply found them a comforting distraction from the era's anxieties. You lean your head back, closing your eyes, and try to recall the music. From the hall, it's already fuzzy, a vague, looping melody of cello and piano. It was designed to be forgotten, a kind of auditory anesthetic. What you remember more clearly is the feeling of letting go. The moment when you're cynical, analytical, mind finally gave up trying to understand and just allowed your body to follow the rhythm. Perhaps the cure for your headache wasn't the blue light or the gentle swaying. Perhaps it was just being tricked into an hour of meditation. Or maybe, and this thought makes you huff a small laugh, the headache was simply scared into submission by the sheer weirdness of the experience, a fear that if it didn't behave, you'd go back and do it all again tomorrow. Whatever the reason, you are profoundly grateful. You sit there for a long time, not thinking, not worrying, just existing in the quiet, silvery light of your apartment, a single, anonymous New Yorker who went out looking for a cure and found it in the strangest place imaginable. The night has deepened. The sounds from the street below have softened, changed in character. The rumble of trolleys has grown less frequent, replaced by the occasional purr of a lone automobile engine and the distant, mournful cry of that same tugboat. On the river, a sound you remember from what feels like a lifetime ago, before your strange journey. It's a reminder that while your small world has found a moment of peace, the larger city never truly sleeps. This ever-present noise was becoming a modern problem. You've seen articles in the paper about it, campaigns for quiet zones, and civic movements decrying the constant clatter of construction and traffic as a detriment to public health. The fight for silence was a new kind of urban warfare. From your third-floor perch, however, the noise is muted, a distant urban lullaby that is more comforting than disturbing. The city's noise, you reflect, is much more pleasant when it stays. On other people's streets, it is time for bed. The simple thought feels like a luxury. You move into your small bedroom, a space dominated by a heavy iron frame bed and a single window that looks out over the dark brick wall of the building. Next door, you go through your nightly rituals, the small, repeated actions that bookend the day. You change out of your clothes, the fabric carrying the faint, lingering scent of lavender from the dance hall. You realize it probably wasn't some mystical, atmospheric treatment, but just a sachet of dried flowers tucked into a corner. The 1920s equivalent of a can of air freshener. The thought is somehow reassuring in its mundane practicality. You crack open the window, letting in a draft of cool, damp night air. Before getting into bed, you pause to perform a small but essential ritual. You vigorously shake out your blanket. This practice of airing the bedding was a deeply ingrained habit for many, a defense against the perceived dangers of stale air and the invisible germs thought to fester in stagnant rooms. Whether the nightly ritual of airing the bed had any genuine health benefits is debatable, but it certainly played a significant role in the domestic psychology of cleanliness. Finally, you slide between the cool, smooth sheets. The relief is immediate and absolute. The mattress is lumpy in all the familiar places, the pillow a perfect cradle for your head. The blue light of the somatic harmony hall has been replaced by the soft, natural moonlight that finds its way even into this narrow air shaft between buildings. You lie on your back, your hands resting on your stomach, and just breathe. You think about the millions of other people in this city, tucked away in their own rooms and their own beds. The rich in their sprawling apartments on Park Avenue, the poor in crowded tenements on the Lower East Side. All of them, for a few hours at least, equals in the democracy of sleep. You feel a profound sense of peace settle over you. The day is done. The headache is gone. And if it dares to return tomorrow, well, you have a new weapon in your arsenal now. You can always threaten it with another round of interpretive dance. The thought, a final, silly flicker of consciousness, brings a faint smile to your lips as your breathing deepens and slows. Your body feels heavy, sinking into the mattress. The distant city sounds fade into a gentle, meaningless hum. Your journey is over. Sleep is coming to claim you, a welcome and merciful tide. Sleep is not a void, it is a place. And you are there now, a quiet resident in its vast, borderless country. Your body is still a warm weight under the simple cotton sheet and the heavy blanket you shook out just before climbing in. Your breathing has found its own deep, tidal rhythm, a slow rise and fall that has nothing to do with the frantic pace of the waking world. The city, which you left behind on the shores of consciousness, still sends you dispatches. The distant wail of a siren so far away it sounds like a grieving bird. The rumble of a late-night freight train on tracks miles from here, a vibration felt more in the bones of the building than heard with the ears. These sounds do not wake you. They are simply integrated into the landscape of your rest, becoming the rolling hills and strange weather of your dreams. Sleep has always been the ultimate, undefeated wellness trend, requiring no special equipment and costing absolutely nothing. Sometime in the deepest part of the night, in that profound stillness between 2 and 4 in the morning, you drift. Closer to the surface, you don't wake fully, but you enter a state of drowsy semi-awareness. Your mind is calm, untroubled. The headache is a forgotten country. This experience is not unusual. In fact, for many people in your time, and for centuries before, sleep was not a single, unbroken block. It was often segmented a first sleep, and a second sleep, punctuated by a quiet hour of wakefulness in the middle of the night. During this tranquil intermission, people might think, pray, have a quiet chat with a spouse, or simply lie in the darkness, enjoying the peace. It was a time without obligation, a secret hour stolen from the world. It's a form of rest almost unimaginable now, a period of quiet contemplation without the siren song of a glowing screen to pull you away. It is impossible to know what you dreamed of that night. Dreams are the most ephemeral of historical artifacts, leaving no trace behind. But perhaps they were colored by the day's strange events. Maybe you dreamed you were floating in a great blue ocean, the sound of a cello humming in the water around you. Or perhaps you were wandering through an endless series of quiet, empty rooms. The popular dream interpretation books sold in drugstores and advertised in magazines would have offered very specific, very confident answers. They would tell you that dreaming of water meant a coming change, that dreaming of dancing foretold of good fortune, and that dreaming of a headache probably meant you were about to have a headache, proving that some things require no interpretation at all. These folk psychologies offered simple, comforting narratives for the chaotic, theater of the subconscious. The quality of the moonlight shifts as the moon itself travels across the sky. The pale patch of light on your floor creeps slowly up the wall, tracing a silent, celestial path. The air coming through the cracked open window grows colder, carrying with it the clean, sharp scent of the approaching dawn. Your body, in its deep wisdom, takes no notice. It is busy with its own quiet work, repairing, restoring, knitting up the raveled sleeve of the day, just as the poets say. You have surrendered control, and in that surrender, you have found the deepest kind of restoration. The somatic harmony hall, with its colored lights and its solemn guides, offered a temporary truce. But this deep and profound sleep is the true peace treaty, signed and sealed in the silent embassy of the night. You are healing, not through any conscious effort or magical cure, but through the simple, ancient, and deeply mysterious act of letting go. The first hint of morning arrives not as a sight, but as a sound. It's a gentle, rhythmic clinking of glass against glass, accompanied by the low hum of an electric motor. It's the milkman making his rounds. His electric delivery truck is a modern marvel, a quiet ghost compared to the horse-drawn wagons that still dominated the streets just a few years ago. You hear the soft thud of 2 glass bottles being placed carefully on the stone step of your building stoop. It's the original subscription delivery service, bringing fresh milk, cream, and sometimes butter right to your door. The sound is so familiar, so much a part of the city's morning symphony, that it doesn't wake you. It simply nudges you from the deep country of sleep into its gentle, shallow provinces. Your mind begins to stir slowly, like a waking animal. The light in the room is changing. The inky blackness outside your window has softened to a deep, velvety gray. The sharp, cold air of the deep night is mellowing, losing its edge. You roll over, your face pressing into the cool cotton of the pillow, seeking a few more moments of oblivion. The sun, as usual, has not consulted your personal schedule and is proceeding with its daily agenda of rising without your permission. As the sky lightens, the gray turns to a pale, luminous lavender, a color that tugs at a memory. For a fleeting, drowsy moment, you are back in the blue-lit hall, swaying to the sound of a cello. The memory is pleasant, dreamlike. Then, with a slow, dawning clarity, you remember the headache, the walk-up, Mrs. Gable, the trolley ride, the absurd dance. You open your eyes. The room is still dim, filled with a soft, indirect morning light. You lie perfectly still, conducting a cautious internal inventory. You search for the familiar pressure behind your eyes, the dull throb at your temples. There is nothing, only a clean, quiet emptiness. The feeling of relief is so profound, it's almost startling. It's like waking up to find that a loud, obnoxious house guest has finally packed their bags and left in the middle of the night without saying goodbye. You feel good, truly, simply good. The world feels new. Historians can only speculate on the exact morning routines of an average person, as diaries so often focus on the day's major events rather than the quiet, unglamorous minutes after. Waking, but your routine is simple. You swing your legs out of bed, your bare feet meeting the cool, smooth wood of the floor. You stretch, your arms reaching for the ceiling, your back arching in a long, satisfying release. There are no sharp pains, no twinges of protest from your head. You pad over to the window and look out at the brick wall opposite, now washed in the soft, rosy light of sunrise. You can hear the city beginning to stir in earnest now. The first trolley of the morning rumbles past at the end of the block. A window screeches open in a nearby apartment. Somewhere, a baby is crying. It's the sound of 1,000 separate lives starting their day all at once, a symphony of mundane beginnings. And you are one of them, ready to face whatever the day might bring, armed with the quiet confidence that comes from a good night's sleep and the faint, lingering suspicion that dancing might actually be magic. The morning routine begins not with an alarm clock, those shrieking tyrants of the bedside. Table are still a luxury for many, but with the quiet insistence of the light. You get up and pad to the small bathroom. The floor tiles are cold under your feet, a gentle shock that helps to anchor you in the present moment. You turn the faucet, and after a series of coughs and sputters, a stream of cold water flows into the basin. You splash it on your face. The sensation is sharp and cleansing, washing away the last cobwebs of sleep. Yesterday, this simple act would have sent a jolt of pain through your skull. Today, it's just invigorating. You look at your reflection in the small, slightly clouded mirror. The person looking back at you seems more rested, the lines of worry around your eyes a little softer. It's still you, of course, but it's a version of you that has had its internal batteries recharged. For men of your time, the next step would be the delicate and slightly terrifying ritual of the morning. Shave. There are newfangled safety razors on the market, but you still use a straight razor, a pearl-handled heirloom from your father. It requires a steady hand and a degree of focus that borders on meditation. It's a daily ritual that combines personal grooming with the thrilling possibility of accidental tracheotomy. You lather the soap in a thick, warm foam, the familiar clean scent filling the small room. Each long, careful scrape is a tiny act of renewal. Today, your hand is steady. There is no tremor of pain or fatigue to throw you off course. Back in the kitchenette, you prepare for the most important ritual of all, coffee. The aroma alone is a kind of medicine. You don't grind your own beans. You've recently started buying your coffee pre-ground in a brightly printed tin can. This is a relatively new convenience, a small miracle of modern mass production. The rise of national brands like Maxwell House and Folgers was changing the American kitchen, replacing the old system of scooping anonymous beans from a barrel. At the general store with the promise of consistent quality, sealed for freshness. You open the can and the rich, dark smell blooms in the air. You spoon the grounds into your percolator, add water, and place it on the gas stove. You light the burner with a match, and it catches with a soft hoop, settling into a ring of steady blue flames. While the coffee begins its noisy, gurgling journey, you decide to indulge in a bit of physical culture. You've seen the routines advertised in magazines, promising to build vigor and ward off the lethargy of modern office life. It's a series of movements that promise to give you the boundless energy of a Greek god, or at the very least, make you slightly less creaky than yesterday. You stand in the center of your small living room and perform a few simple stretches, bending and twisting with a self-conscious stiffness. It feels silly, and you're glad Mrs. Gable isn't watching. Through the keyhole, it is difficult to ascertain how many people genuinely incorporated these formal exercise routines into their daily lives, versus how many simply read the articles and felt vaguely guilty about their lack of vigor. But as you move, you feel the satisfying pull of muscles waking up, a physical echo of the mental clarity you're experiencing. The coffee percolator reaches a crescendo, its bubbling a cheerful, frantic sound. The apartment fills with the robust, life-affirming scent of brewing. Coffee, it smells like possibility. It smells like a day without a headache. The coffee is ready. You pour the dark, steaming liquid into your favorite mug, a thick ceramic vessel that feels solid and comforting in your hands. You sit at your small kitchen table, the one that wobbles if you lean on it too hard. You take a sip. It's hot, strong, and blessedly uncomplicated. Remember that slogan you saw on the side of a building? Good to the last drop? It has a certain finality to it, as if the coffee is daring you to find a single mediocre drop. You add a splash of the cold, creamy milk the silent man in the electric truck left on your stoop. As you sip your coffee, you unfold this morning's newspaper. It's a chaotic salad of global affairs, local scandals, and advertisements for things you never knew you couldn't live without. The headlines are a snapshot of your world. President Coolidge is being praised for his quiet frugality. A new skyscraper is being planned that will be the tallest in the world. And Babe Ruth has, once again, hit a baseball a truly astonishing distance. Your eyes drift from the major headlines to the inside pages, a dense forest of tiny print. You are reading one of the city's new tabloid papers, a format that has taken New York by storm. The rise of the tabloid press, with its emphasis on sensational photographs, stark headlines, and human interest stories, fundamentally changed the way millions of people engaged with the news. It was faster, more visual, and infinitely more dramatic than the old. Broadsheets. It's where you find the stories that people are really talking about: divorce scandals, dramatic courtroom trials, and tales of daring bootleggers outsmarting federal agents. It is difficult for historians to gauge the true impact of the sober newspaper editorials on public opinion versus the more visceral, emotional pull of these sensational headlines and blurry photographs of crime scenes. After finishing your coffee and a piece of toast, you get dressed for the day. You put on your work clothes, trousers, a crisp shirt, and a tie. The final touch is the collar. Not the soft, attached collar of the future, but a separate, detachable one made of stiff, unforgiving linen. It's a small, wearable fence designed to keep your head held high, whether you feel dignified or not. You look at yourself in the mirror again, a respectable-looking citizen ready to be fed into the machinery of the city for another day. You grab your hat and your keys. As you lock the door to your apartment, the click of the latch sounds final, decisive. You walk down the 3 flights of stairs, the same ones that felt like a mountain yesterday. Today, your steps are light and easy. You emerge from the dim hallway of your building into the bright, crisp morning. The street is alive now. Delivery trucks rumble past, vendors are setting up their carts, and people are streaming out of the brownstones on their way to work, their faces set with purpose. The air is cool and smells of exhaust fumes, roasting nuts from a street cart, and the faint, ever-present scent of the river. It's the smell of New York on a Tuesday morning. You are just one small, anonymous part of this great, surging river of humanity. But today, you are not fighting the current. You are part of it. You feel rested, clear-headed, and ready. You turn towards the streetcar stop, a quiet sense of anticipation in your chest, and begin your walk to work. Instead of the streetcar, your commute to the heart of the city requires a different beast, the elevated train. You walk a few blocks to the station, a great skeletal iron structure that looms over the street, casting a permanent striped shadow on the pavement below. The station itself is reached by a long, covered staircase, and as you climb, the sounds of the street are replaced by the unique noises of the platform, the shuffling of 100 pairs of shoes, the rustle of newspapers being folded and refolded, and the expectant silence of a crowd waiting for something to happen. It's a demonstration of humanity's shared goal, to occupy the exact same 3 square feet of space at the exact same time. The air up here is different, tasting of iron. Dust and the faint electrical smell of the 3rd rail. Far down the tracks, a light appears. A low rumble grows into a deafening, rhythmic roar. The train approaches, a chain of olive green cars swaying and screeching as they round a bend. It barrels into the station with a great sigh of air brakes, its steel wheels screaming in protest against the rails. This is not the gentle, swaying trolley of last night. This is a brute, a noisy, muscular artery of the city's circulatory system. The doors slide open with a loud clatter, and the quiet pressure of the crowd becomes a determined shove. There is no after you on the morning train. It is a polite, unspoken battle of shoulders and elbows. You find yourself swept inside, and the human tide, grabbing onto a leather loop hanging from the ceiling just as the doors slam shut and the train lurches violently forward. The car is packed. You are standing shoulder to shoulder with strangers, a temporary and intimate community of commuters. The smells are of damp wool coats, coffee on people's breath, and the faint, inky scent of fresh newsprint. You stare at the back of a man's neck, trying to avoid making eye contact with anyone. To your left, a woman is expertly applying lipstick without the aid of a mirror, her hand steady despite the violent rocking of the train. It's a feat of cosmetic artistry that deserves some kind of award. The train rattles onward, and through the window, you see the city from a new perspective. You are gliding past the 2nd and 3rd story windows of apartment buildings, catching fleeting, intimate glimpses into other people's lives. A woman setting a table for breakfast, a child's toys scattered on a windowsill, a lonely-looking potted plant. You look up at the advertisements lining the car. They are different from the ones on the trolley. They speak to a different kind of ambition. There are ads for correspondence courses, promising to turn you into a radio engineer, a draftsman, or a successful short story writer, all from the comfort of your own home. You could apparently become a certified public accountant or a master of the ukulele through the mail, 2 skills that feel mutually exclusive. These ads sold more than education. They sold a way out, a path to a better self. Historians often struggle to differentiate between the advertised ideal of urban self-improvement and the grittier reality of long hours and limited opportunities that define daily life for most commuters. For you, they are just something to read while you sway with the rhythm of the train, your hand aching slightly from gripping the leather strap. The journey is a noisy, jarring, and thoroughly untherapeutic experience. And yet, without the dull drumbeat of a headache, you find it almost exhilarating. It is the feeling of being fully plugged into the electric current of the city, a feeling you haven't truly experienced in days that the train vomits its human cargo onto a vast, echoing platform underground in Manhattan. You are now in the belly of the beast. The air here is warmer, heavier, and smells of damp concrete, hot metal, and the collective exhalations of thousands of people. You follow the river of humanity up a long series of stairs and emerge, blinking, into the daylight of a canyon of skyscrapers. The scale of it is always breathtaking. The buildings are not just tall, they are aspirational, monumental, clawing their way into the sky. Your own office building is a respectable, if not record-breaking, 20 stories of limestone and steel. You push through the revolving doors into a lobby of polished marble and ornate brass. The air inside is cool and hushed, a temple dedicated to commerce. You wait for the elevator, a magnificent cage of bronze and polished wood. The elevator ride is a slow, creaking journey upward, a vertical trolley piloted by a man in a crisp uniform who seems to be personally offended by gravity. He calls out the floors in a weary monotone, his expression never changing. At the 12th floor, the gate slides open with a rattle and you step out into your world. The sound hits you. First, it is a constant, industrious clatter, a mechanical symphony for the god of commerce. It's the sound of dozens of typewriters clicking and clacking at once, the rhythmic ringing of telephones, the murmur of voices, and the soft swoosh of paper being shuffled. This is the sound of white-collar work, the engine room of the modern economy that was rapidly expanding all around you, pulling more and more people into these hives of administration and information. Your desk is one of many in a vast, open room known as the bullpen. There are no cubicles, no private spaces. Just rows upon rows of identical oak desks, each with its own typewriter, telephone, and a small mountain of paperwork. You walk down the aisle, nodding a quiet good morning to a few familiar faces. You reach your own desk, your small patch of professional real estate. You hang your hat on a hook, sit down in your creaking wooden chair, and survey the scene. At the front of the room, behind a complex switchboard of plugs and wires, sits the telephone operator. She is the nexus of all communication, a critical piece of human hardware connecting the office to the outside world. With her headset on, she murmurs, "One moment, please, and connecting you now," in a calm, modulated voice. Her hands a blur as she pulls and inserts the thick cables. Your boss, Mr. Abernathy, has an enclosed office with a glass door which allows him to see everything while remaining separate from the noise. He has the kind of posture that suggests he was born wearing a stiff collar. He is already at his desk, staring intently at a ledger. It remains a point of academic discussion just how much personal autonomy these new legions of office workers actually possessed. While they wore collars instead of overalls, their days were often just as regimented and controlled as any factory floor. You look at the neat stack of papers in your inbox, the first tasks of the day waiting for you. Yesterday, the very sight of this pile would have made your head ache in weary anticipation. Today, you feel a quiet sense of readiness. You roll a fresh sheet of paper into your typewriter, its crisp, blank surface holding the promise of a productive day. You place your fingers on the keys, take a deep, steadying breath, and begin to work. Your fingers find their familiar places on the keys of the typewriter. It's a heavy, black, beautiful machine, and Underwood No. 5, the undisputed king of office equipment. Its keys are round, rimmed with nickel, like little monocles for your fingertips. When you press one, a complex series of levers and arms swings into action with a satisfying clack, launching a metal slug wrapped in inked ribbon against the page. It's a magnificent machine for turning thoughts into noise. Your job for the next 8 hours is to feed this machine. You are a correspondence clerk, a human node in the great flow of information that is the lifeblood of this company. Your task is to read incoming letters, comprehend their requests, and then compose and type appropriate responses. In essence, you transform stacks of important-looking paper into slightly different-looking stacks of important-looking paper. The first letter of the day is from a man in Ohio who claims his shipment of fountain pens arrived with 24 of them leaking. He is, to put it mildly, displeased. Your job is to be the voice of the company, calm, apologetic, and firm. You take a fresh sheet of the company letterhead from a drawer, along with a flimsy purple-black sheet of carbon paper and a thin yellow sheet for the copy. You carefully align the 3 pages and roll them into the typewriter's platen. This is the magic of duplication, a messy but essential office ritual. Every letter you send out must have a copy for the files, a ghostly purple twin that will live forever in a metal cabinet. The carbon paper smells faintly of wax and ink and has a tendency to leave a telltale smudge on your fingertips, a mark of your trade dot. You begin to type. The room is filled with the sound of your work, multiplied by 30. It's not a gentle sound. It is a percussive industrial chatter, a relentless hailstorm of communication. This symphony of mechanization is a point of pride for the men who run the world of commerce. They call it scientific management, the idea that office work, like factory work, can be broken down into its smallest, most efficient components. Every movement, from the way you reach for a piece of paper to the speed at which you type, has been studied and optimized. Whether this relentless drive for efficiency actually makes the work better or just makes the day feel twice as long is a question you try not to think about too often. You simply type, the keys clack. The bell at the end of a line rings with a cheerful, insistent ding, signaling that it's time to slam the carriage return lever, an action that requires a satisfying burst of force. You glance across the aisle at Mr. Henderson, a man whose sole responsibility is to sort the outgoing mail, a task he performs with the solemn intensity of a bomb disposal expert. He licks each envelope flap with a deliberate, wet swipe, his brow furrowed in concentration. It is hard for sociologists to determine whether the forced proximity of the open plan office fostered a genuine sense of camaraderie or simply a quiet, shared resentment for men like Mr. Henderson. For a moment, the frantic, mechanical rhythm of the typewriter reminds you of something else. It is the exact opposite of the slow, deliberate music from last night. Remember the cello? How it seemed to stretch time, to make it soft and pliable. The typewriter does the opposite. It chops time into tiny, uniform pieces, 1,000 clacks per hour. You finish the letter to the man in Ohio, promising him a new shipment and offering the company's sincerest apologies. You pull the pages from the roller, peel away the carbon paper, and sign the company's name, one task down. Hundreds to go. The sun, a distant and impartial observer, crawls up the sky, its light slanting through the tall, grimy windows of the office. The bright, optimistic energy of the morning has slowly curdled into a steady, monotonous grind. The clatter of typewriters is still constant, but it has lost its morning crispness. It sounds heavier now, more laborious. Around 11:30, the morning's productivity curve begins to sag like a wet clothesline. A collective restlessness settles over the bullpen. People begin to subtly watch the large round clock on the far wall, a silent, mutual countdown to the midday reprieve. You finish typing a price list, your fingers stiff and slightly stained with ink. You check the clock. 5 more minutes. This is the longest 5 minutes of the day, a small eternity of paper shuffling and clock watching, Finally, a bell rings. Somewhere deep in the building, a dull, clangorous sound that signals the lunch hour. It is a blessed, welcome noise. A great, collective sigh seems to pass through the room. Chairs scrape back, desk drawers slide open and shut, and the clatter of typewriters is replaced by the murmur of conversation and the rustle of people gathering their things. You rise, stretching the stiffness out of your back. The question is where to eat. You could bring a sandwich from home, as many of your colleagues do, eating at your desk from a wax paper parcel. But today, you feel like treating yourself. You will go to the AUTOMAT dot. You join the exodus of clerks and secretaries pouring out of the building and into the bustling street. The change of environment is immediate. You leave the filtered air of the office for the raw, chaotic energy of the midday lunch rush. The sidewalks are thronged with people, a torrent of hats and hurrying feet. You walk 2 blocks to a place that looks like it belongs in a science fiction story. It's a horn and hard art automat, its entrance a grand archway of polished brass and gleaming white tile. You push through the doors and enter a cathedral of modern convenience. The room is vast, bright, and noisy with the clatter of trays and the chatter of hundreds of diners. But the most remarkable feature is the wall. An entire wall is composed of a grid of small chrome and glass windows, each displaying a different dish. Like a museum exhibit of food. This is the central miracle of the automat, a place that serves hundreds of people an hour with almost no visible human staff. The system is based on the radical idea that the best person to choose your lunch is you, provided you have enough nickels. First, you approach a glass booth where a woman, the nickel thrower, sits enthroned. You slide a dollar bill under the grate, and she, with an astonishing fluid speed, slides back a cascade of nickels onto a marble tray. Armed with your ammunition, you approach the wall of food. The choices are simple, hearty, and quintessentially American. A crock of baked beans, macaroni and cheese with a golden brown crust, a slice of meatloaf, creamed spinach. You spot what you want, a chicken pot pie, its pastry dough golden and inviting. You insert 2 nickels into the slots next to its window. There's a satisfying click, and you can now turn the little knob. The tiny window springs open, and you pull out your hot lunch. Whether the automat's appeal was its efficiency, its novelty, or simply the fact that you didn't have to make small talk with a waiter, remains a subject of considerable debate among urban historians. You find an empty seat at a small round table and eat. The pie is hot, savory, and deeply comforting. As you eat, you look around at the other diners, all performing the same ritual. You think for a fleeting moment of how impossible this meal would have felt yesterday. Sitting here with a splitting headache, the thought makes the pie taste even better. The post-lunch slump is not a modern invention. It is an ancient and venerable tradition, but for now, you just enjoy your meal. A brief and perfect intermission in the long, noisy day. The chicken pot pie, as satisfying as it was, has done its work. The afternoon now stretches before you, a vast, sleepy desert. You return to your desk in the bullpen, and the wave of post-lunch lethargy hits you with the force of a soft, warm pillow. Your body wants to slump, to surrender to gravity and a brief, blissful nap. But the unforgiving geometry of your chair and the watchful eye of Mr. Abernathy and his glass box make this an impossibility. So you sit, propped up by societal expectation and the rigid architecture of your detachable collar. This afternoon slump is the second great challenge of the workday, a quiet internal battle waged at desks all across the city. It's a battle you almost always lose, but today, you're not also fighting a headache, which feels like a significant tactical advantage. The work is the same, but the rhythm is different. The furious clatter of the morning has been replaced by a more sluggish, syrupy tempo. The typewriters still click, but with less enthusiasm, as if the machines themselves are getting tired. You're tasked with typing up a series of collection letters for customers who are late on their installment plan payments for a new line of parlor radios. The very idea of buying on time is a modern invention, a seductive new form of financial magic that allows people to have things now and worry about paying for them later. It is a system that is fueling a boom in consumer goods, filling homes with vacuums, washing machines, and radios that people couldn't possibly afford all at once. It is also fueling your company's need for correspondence clerks to write increasingly stern letters. It is difficult for economists to track precisely how this explosion of consumer credit reshaped the psychological relationship between citizens and their possessions, but it undoubtedly created a new kind of quiet monthly anxiety dot as you type. Your mind begins to drift. You think about the absurdity of it all. You are using a $500 machine to chase down a $5 payment from a stranger in another state. The sheer volume of paper being generated feels monumental. You picture it all: the letters, the carbon copies, the invoices, the ledgers piling up in a great silent mountain that will one day swallow the city whole. You imagine the papers breeding in the filing cabinets overnight, multiplying in the dark, ensuring there will always be more work to do tomorrow. The thought is not comforting. The clock on the wall moves with a slowness that seems deliberate, almost cruel. 5 o'clock feels a lifetime away. Outside, the afternoon light begins to yellow and fade. The end of the day is signaled by a particular scent that drifts up from the street, the smell of roasting chestnuts from a vendor's cart, a warm, sweet aroma that cuts through the city's usual perfume of exhaust and industry. Then, at long last, the bell rings. It is not a gentle chime. It is a loud, commanding declaration that the workday is officially over. The sound unleashes a chain reaction. Typewriter carriages are slammed home one last time. Desk drawers are closed. Chairs scrape back in unison. There's a sudden joyous burst of chatter and movement. Mr. Abernathy emerges from his glass cage, puts on his hat, and leaves without a word. You carefully cover your typewriter with its black oilcloth hood, tucking it in for the night. You gather your hat and coat and join the throng moving towards the elevators. The ride down is quicker, lighter. The weary crowd descends back to street level and pours out into the evening, dissipating into the great anonymous flow of the city. Another day successfully exchanged for a few dollars. The journey home feels different from the frantic morning commute. The elevated train is still crowded, but the energy has shifted. The tense, forward-leaning posture of the morning has been replaced by a weary, relaxed slump. People are not staring at the backs of necks. They are reading evening papers, their pages filled with the day's baseball scores and tomorrow's weather forecast. You manage to get a seat, and the rocking motion of the train is almost soothing. You look out the window at the city, now beginning to light up for the night. A million windows, each a tiny, glowing diorama of a private life. You feel a profound sense of relief. It's not just the relief of the day being over, but the deeper relief of having navigated it with a clear head. You arrive back at your own quiet street. The gaslights are hissing their soft welcome. You climb the 3 flights of stairs, the familiar scent of old dinners greeting you like a slightly disappointing relative. You unlock your door and step into the comforting darkness of your own space. The silence is a balm after the relentless noise of the office. You don't want a big meal. You make yourself a simple plate of cheese and crackers and pour another glass of cool water from the tap. You eat standing in the kitchenette, the quiet satisfaction of a simple meal and a day's work well done settling over you. After eating, you turn your attention to the newest piece of furniture in your apartment, a handsome wooden radio, which you are, of course, buying on the installment plan. You turn the large bakelite knob, and the dial glows with a warm orange light. A wash of static fills the room, and then, as you carefully tune the dial, a voice emerges, clear and confident, from a world away. It's the beginning of a dramatic program, complete with swelling organ music. You sit in your armchair, the one with the sighing springs, and you listen. The story is about a missing inheritance, a shadowy villain, and a brave heroine. It is, you think with a small smile, significantly less dramatic than your own recent battle with the forces of head pain. The true impact of radio on the social fabric is still debated by sociologists, but for many, like you, it was a revolutionary device that piped companionship and entertainment directly into the solitude of a small apartment. Before settling in for the night, you perform one last domestic ritual. You take the 2 empty glass milk bottles from this morning, rinse them out in the sink, and carry them down to your building stoop. You place them on the cool stone, a silent, empty offering for the milkman to collect and replace in the pre-dawn hours. It's a small act of faith in the rhythms of the city, a quiet promise that tomorrow will come. You climb the stairs one last time, your body tired, but your mind at peace. You change into your night clothes, the simple act of shedding the stiff collar of the workday feeling like a liberation. You slide into bed, the cool sheets a welcome shock. You can hear the faint, dramatic swells of the radio still playing in the other room. You remember the blue light, the swaying dance, the absurd cure that actually worked. You feel a wave of deep, quiet contentment. The day is complete, and now there's nothing left to do. The story is over. Let the memory of it fade like a photograph left in the sun. The sounds of the city, which have been a constant companion, the roar of the train, the clatter of the typewriter, the murmur of the radio begin to soften now, their sharp edges blurring into a distant, gentle hum. It is a lullaby sung by a city that is finally lowering its voice. Feel the weight of your own body, a comfortable, pleasant heaviness settling into the surface beneath you. Your thoughts, too, begin to lose their shape, drifting like soft clouds across a vast and quiet sky. There are no problems to solve, no lists to make. You have done enough. Let the gentle tide of tiredness wash over you, pulling you away from the shore of the waking world. Let the rhythm of your own breathing be the only guide you need now, a slow, steady current carrying you out into the deep, peaceful waters of sleep. There is only this moment, this quiet, this rest. Drifting now, deeper and deeper, into the gentle, silent dark.